What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow Chart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. Check it. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hustle and Flow Chart podcast. My name is Matt Wolf. I'm here with my business partner and co-host, Mr. Joseph A. Fear.
Now everyone knows my full name. Middle name is A.
Your middle name is A. Yep. Today, we've got a really, really cool guest, and he's someone that we've actually looked up for a long time, and we sort of kind of studied for a long time. And, we've been a fan of what he does. He puts on a thing called the Internet Marketing Party. He does it every single month in Austin. He does it at least once a year in San Diego. So we obviously go to every single San Diego one. We've been to a couple of the Austin ones. His name is David Gonzales. And in this interview, we were trying to dig into how he does his networking and how he has such a massive network and how he's ramped up the Internet Marketing Party and just all of what goes into putting something like this on. And with this interview, he had actually a hard time really piecing it together. I think he's still trying to figure out exactly how this whole thing came to be. I think he's still putting together how I built such a big network. How is this Internet Marketing Party such a success? How have I built such a big brand in this industry? And it was just really fascinating to listen to this sort of stream of thought of how this all came about and how his upbringing and his childhood and those various contacts that he made over the years sort of all led to this culmination of this massive brand in the Internet Marketing Party. And so you're going to hear him sort of explain his story, and you're going to get some takeaways, but you need to sort of pick them out a little bit. You're going to hear him talk about how he puts on mastermind events and how he connects people to each other, and how he's how he's consistently grown the Internet Marketing Party, and how he's strategically partnered with other people to better systematize the Internet Marketing Party. And a lot of this stuff, he's such a humble guy, and he's such the type that's still piecing it together himself, that you kind of got to listen for those elements, but it's still a very fascinating and very fun interview with a guy who's just had massive success and has built a massive network in this industry. So really great interview. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you nailed it.
I think I nailed it. All right, well, let's
just get into it.
Let's go ahead and jump right in with Mr. David Gonzales, the host of the Internet Marketing Party.
All right. David, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been like we've been chasing you like a crazy man. You've been
chasing him around the world.
Literally, not literally. No, but definitely you've been one that we've been wanting to get for a while, just because seems like you're just the well-connected fellow. You know everyone. We go to all your parties. I think we went to the first
we go to all his
party.
parties in San Diego, but we've actually flown out to Austin and gone to at least two in Austin too.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
It's been a bit though. We need to make it out there again. But yeah, man. So what's I guess what's new in your hood? Yeah, are you I Am Party? You're just. I know you did a lot of JV stuff. I don't know what you're doing these days. What's the update?
Yeah. So what's new is the fact that I've had a JV and affiliate management agency for about I've had two different ones, and so all told, it's been close to 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then I know one of your other guests that you've had is Gonzalo Paternoster.
Yep.
So he and I partnered about 6 months ago, and he's just been rocking my world because he helped me change my mindset from being a JV and affiliate manager to being a strategic partner with companies and businesses that heretofore I was just just being a consultant or an agency. Right. And now we're doing partnerships with folks because he's helped me realize that my network and my connections and my knowledge from being in this industry and being in masterminds with the biggest names in the industry have made it to where I didn't wake up. That whole thing about the frog and boiling water, although I've heard it's not, that's a fallacy. It's not really true, but
you haven't tested it?
The metaphor holds true though, right? Like if I've been thinking of myself as a connector and a JV guy for so long that it didn't occur to me until Gonzalo came around that dude, there's so much more opportunity that I could bring a company
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the reason people hire our agency is for traffic. It doesn't matter. Like if I told people, hey, I'm no longer doing JVs, but I can bring you better quality traffic for less money, they wouldn't care if it was JV or
Paid
CPA
or
or what. Yeah, they don't. Nobody really cares. They just. And
Yeah.
so he helped me realize that, like, even once someone can get traffic, if their conversions aren't dialed in, it doesn't matter because all the it's like almost. I've had people. I've actually told people not to bring traffic to their offer because their offer is not converting well. So, a lot of people don't know this, but with Internet Marketing Party, when I have a speaker talk on our stage, I ask them what's their biggest challenge, and whatever they answer, I curate the 8 to 10 most experienced people around that challenge, and I put them in an afternoon mastermind called a think tank the afternoon before the Internet Marketing Party. So once a month for the last, we just celebrated our 9th anniversary. We started doing this about 6.5, 7 years ago.
Dang,
once a month for the last 7 years, I've been in a room with people like Roland Frazier, Ryan Dice, Noah Kagan, Tucker Max, Ron Lynch. Some of these guys have generated billions of dollars worth of sales, not millions or hundreds of millions. And it, it's just kind of like, oh, that's my world. And Gonzalo came in and he's like, dude, you realize if you became a partner with these companies instead of just being, thought of as a consultant or an advisor or and technically speaking, now that's what I am, but like not just a JV manager or a JV broker. And I haven't even been doing that on my own for a long time. It's been a team that does it, but still that's what people think of. So
this
probably
was a big
the longest answer you've gotten.
For sure. Yeah. Well, with Gonzalo, if you haven't listened to it, listeners, go check out Gonzalo after this one, because he's just badass. He totally complements your style though, because he was even saying during that podcast, he kind of lets you just run free now, where you felt like you had to be organized, that you had to kind of be someone you aren't really. I'm not saying you're not organized. I don't really know. But
no, I mean, it's not that I'm not organized. It's that it doesn't come naturally to me. Right. And interestingly enough, now that I don't have to, I'm more organized, if that makes sense. Because now I'm doing things that I get to do as opposed to things that I have to do. And so I've recognized that in order for me to do more of the things that I get to do, I require to be organized.
Right. Makes sense.
Right. I actually want to sort of take a couple steps back, and I'm curious about how you sort of got into what you're doing now. Like, what was this sort of catalyst that made you start doing the IM parties and networking and all the stuff you're doing now? What were you doing before this, and how did you sort of move into this space?
So the catalyst was the fact that I had sold $1 million a year hypnotherapy business, and I had money and time, and I had a mentor at the time who had retired by the age of 30 as a real estate investor, and he was going to coach and mentor me to follow in his footsteps. And that happened to be like late 2007, early 2008. And well, I don't have to remind you what happened, towards the middle and end of 2008. So even though you would have thought that was a perfect time as a real estate investor, I didn't have a lot of capital. I didn't have the kind of capital that would have been required to really, take advantage of the real estate market. And and what he was doing was teaching. I had gone through getting my real estate license, so I had a license. So it was a different gig. And needless to say, I was trying to figure out, like, damn it, now what am I going to do? And my buddy Michael Lovitch, who I'm sure you guys know, at that point had already scaled his hypnosis business, digital business. It was called the Hypnosis Network. They were doing like 10, 12 million a year. And I asked him to coach me in the online space because I had read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, and I was like, well, this sounds like something I could probably do. And it really inspired me, let me just figure out some place to leverage my expertise. And he's like, yeah, let me introduce you to my buddies, Kevin Wilkie and Matt Gill from Nitro Marketing. And they were in Dallas, and they had been huge affiliates for everybody under the sun. And they were releasing their own info product. And he said they're looking for an affiliate manager, and I was like, what's that?
Yeah, yeah.
And they said, don't hire Dave as an employee. Just he's like, don't become an employee. Just learn how to do this thing, and then it'll connect you with everybody, and then you can figure out what you want to do when you have more connections.
Yeah.
And so they had interviewed a bunch of other people, but they're like, yeah, we're gonna hire Dave, even though he doesn't have any. He doesn't even, he doesn't know Hotmail from.
He doesn't know squat. Yeah.
I don't know shit. So they ended up giving me a spreadsheet that had all of their affiliate, everybody they'd ever promoted, and it was like a who's who. It was Frank Kern, Ryan Dice, Mike Dillard, Perry Belcher, Joe Polish, like everybody that you've ever heard of was on the spreadsheet. It had their phone number, their cell phone, their Skype, their email, everything. And
just have at it, huh? Just
and I just started connecting with people, and then I realized, well, shit, a bunch of these people are in Austin. At the time, it was like 3/4 of Yannick Silver's high-level high-ticket mastermind, which at the time there weren't that many of them. It was only Joe Polish and Yannick Silver that had a mastermind, pretty much.
I know, now everyone does.
Yeah, and anyway, 2/3 of his mastermind was based out of Austin.
Wow.
And so I had gone to Kevin and Matt did a meetup in Dallas, and I went to it because it's like a 3-hour drive from Austin to Dallas, and a group of us drove up there, and I was like, man, this is cool. I should do one in Austin. And Kevin lived right downtown in a really beautiful condo. I live out in the suburbs, and just a regular house. It wasn't like anything brag-worthy. So I was like, I'm going to do something downtown. Went down to a bar and negotiated a deal with them to bring in people, and that's how it got. I had the idea. I talked with Eric Louvier and Mike Dillard and Ryan and Perry about it, and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes in case they were thinking of doing something, because I was more about building relationships. And Eric was really active in what's called the Warrior Forum, and he posted something in the Warrior Forum saying, hey, next month Dave Gonzales is doing this thing, and he forwarded me a copy of it, and I was like, oh great.
Now I gotta do it.
Now I got to. So that was the first. That was in September of 2008, and that's that. We've done it every single month ever since then, and people keep coming, so I keep doing them. And then the way the ones before Traffic and Conversion got started is because Traffic and Conversion used to be in Austin, and then when they moved out to San Diego, I was like, well, because they used to be like every second Tuesday of the month, and then Traffic and Conversion starts usually on a Friday, and so I was like, oh, let's move it to that Thursday, and we already had momentum, and it was one of our largest parties. So we started doing it in conjunction with other events, and when they moved to San Diego, we started doing it there. Actually, we had already gone to San Diego. We did the one with Frank Kern.
You did, yeah. We were there at that one for sure.
So
same place, same location. Yeah.
Yep. And
I think you need a new location now, though, in San Diego. You're like maxing that place out in San Diego. Yeah. So we're gonna have to raise prices because that's kind of Gonzalo's idea. He's like, dude, it's ridiculous. People pay between $4,000 to $6,000 all told, not just a ticket, but like hotel, airfare, everything. And then you've got a $30 ticket. It's like, it's laughable. Yeah.
He's like, and that would be okay if it weren't the fact that like you literally had to tell people like, sorry, we're sold out. So that like, it's not like you can just keep making the venue bigger.
That's true.
Yeah, so you do these networking events every single month? I didn't realize they were that frequent in Austin. I mean, so as soon as one is over, are you just like back to work on prepping for the next one?
Well, I mean, we have them lined up usually for 3 to 6 months out in advance.
Oh, got it.
Gotcha. Well, so
it's not like
So I guess like I'm thinking of like when you first got into this whole thing, you had that Rolodex of like the highest name guys in marketing. I mean, you were just going in blind. So I think your like skill set just like, I mean, it seemed like you're already a go-getter. You can approach anyone, but you didn't even know who these guys were. So it's probably even easier to kind of kickstart things. How has that turned into like now? Like, do you have partnerships with these guys? I know you did a lot of JV deals, so you kind of brought two people together, like you were saying, bring traffic and all that. So is that something that still kind of last to this day? I know you're doing more partnerships.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not all of our clients are partners, but it works out better for both. That's one of the things I love about working with Gonzalez. He's a really good deal maker.
Yeah.
Where to me, the hallmark of a good deal maker is somebody you want to work with again. Because a lot of deal makers, they're more like sharks, and it's like, yeah, you got a deal, but you feel like, you
kinda
got
cheated,
eaten. Yeah, like I don't know that I'd want to work with them again, kind of thing. So to that point, we have some clients still, and we'll still bring on clients. It's just that, it's more enticing to work with people who want to partner with us, because then we can bring more of our heft, more weight to the table, and really, because it's like now it's hard to see the other way.
Right,
it's hard to be like, yeah, I mean, but we will still bring on clients, because sometimes it just makes better sense in both directions to, if somebody's already got proven conversions, there's already a lot of overlap with our network. They just want somebody to do the work. Well, we have affiliate managers that can do the work, and there's not a lot of, if they go to the same masterminds I go to, and they know a lot of the same people, that instance wouldn't be a good deal for them, and I don't know how much we could feel good about like co-owning that product.
Right, sure. Right. Now you're probably the most networked person we know. You know more sort of high level entrepreneurs and business people and like uber successful people than probably anybody else that we're personally connected to. Now, would you say that you're sort of naturally a good networker and that's why you did the IM party, or do you think that's a result of doing the IM party?
I think it's a combo of both. I think it's one of those chicken or the egg things,
right?
Because I used to think that it was my mom's gift of gab that made me this way, but when my father passed away, when I gave his eulogy, I realized, wait a minute, like there's so many people that loved my father. Like my mom was known by a lot of people, and she knew a lot of people, but my father was loved by a lot of people. And so I think that combination of, because my dad was more, he wasn't an introvert per se, but he was more like, he wasn't as much of a gregarious, outgoing, bubbly person. And so I think it's that combination of them two made me naturally like a pretty good networker. Like I'm genuinely curious about people.
Right.
Especially, I gravitate towards really accomplished, really talented, really spectacular people. Like but it doesn't stop with people. Like when it comes to really, like, have you guys ever been in somebody's tool shed or like a workshop with somebody, and like you see like some really specialized, really badass piece of equipment, like or tool that's like obviously made in like Austria or Germany or
specialized
Swiss
thing, yeah.
Like, and it's just like, what is this? Like, I'm just fascinated by stuff like that. So I don't think it's just people. It's like anything that's exquisitely talented or specialized. Like, I'm just curious about it. Like, I'm intrigued by mastery, specialization, things like this. And I think because I'm attracted to it because I want more of that, but I've always felt too lazy to do it myself. So it's kind of like, oh, well, I here's a way that I can kind of like learn about it without doing it.
Well, no, you literally, I guess that inherently attracts you to talented people, and they might not be the most successful, but they have this brain, they have some kind of thing that's shining. But it allows you to show it off to your audience. And it's really fascinating.
And the other cool thing that Gonzalo has done for me is help me realize that I'm a genius that's been walking around thinking I was a dumbass because I've been hanging around with so many geniuses.
Yeah.
That but he helped me like wake up to the fact that like when I was in second grade, I got the second highest the standardized tests that they give you in the whole school.
Damn.
And like, there was all kinds of other signs and signals that I was really, really smart. But then my parents got a divorce, and I grew up in a kind of a rough part of South Texas, and I think I didn't really have a lot of things going for me to help me like really flourish and kind of blossom as a really smart person, like the people that I tend to curate and put on my stage.
Yeah.
But that's changing.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, we've known you for a long time, and you've been always connected to everyone. But it feels like just recently, or maybe not just recently, but just in the last handful of years, you've really started flowing. And you like found some other level, some other gear. Now you're just kicking into.
Yeah, I think some of that has been, interestingly enough, now, like, I don't want, like, I just want, before I say what I'm about to say, I'm really starting to feel self-conscious about, like, I feel like we're just talking about me and my story and stuff, as opposed, like, I want to make sure that your listeners get value.
True.
This is fun for me. Like, everybody likes talking about themselves, but, so we'll jump into stuff that your listeners can get value from, because, I mean, hopefully they'll get value from my story, but, like, I want, like, stuff.
You're good. Yeah, no, we'll roll.
So, but yeah, like, I think, I'm 5'2", 5'3" with shoes, like, I'm a small dude, and, I think I didn't realize until after I started, jujitsu and I won a gold medal in my first tournament, how much of an impact being such a small dude. I mean, I'm smaller than a lot of women, and that was the case ever since I was in school. And so I think that was one of the things that made me such a good networker, is that I was so small that, like, I felt like I had to saddle up with or team up with bigger, faster, stronger dudes so that I could, like, not feel like, oh, well, I mean, because I remember hitting puberty around, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, where it was like everybody was friendly and cool and fun, and then all the boys started liking the pretty girls, and it was like this competitiveness thing, like the mammalian instinct started kicking in, and and like I didn't feel like I could compete with my friends that were starting to become athletes, and, like, I was never picked, like, I was almost always picked last when we would play, like, group sports where there was a team captain and stuff, and that shit took a lot of toll on my self-image and my self-esteem and stuff. So I think that's where my connectorness started, is like, I was like, oh, well, I'll just become really good friends with the most popular,
group,
big,
person,
athletic people, and I would, like, I was kind of like the class clown and the funny, gregarious, like, kind of thing. And I think that between that and my parents is where that got started. But to answer your question, why I think my flow and my gear started kicking in is once I learned jujitsu, I was regularly tapping out dudes that were, I weigh like 135, 140 pounds. I was tapping out dudes that weighed 250 and that were like, your size, Matt. Like, I mean, you're a tall guy.
Bastard.
Not quite 250, but yeah.
That's true.
I mean, no. I don't mean on the weight size. I'm talking. You're like what, 6'1"?
I'm 6'3", yeah.
6'3", yeah. I mean, you're a big dude. I mean, like, and like, I didn't realize it until after I started getting pretty good at jiu-jitsu and practicing it on a regular basis, how much I had this unconscious pattern in the back of my head that was like, might beats right. And like that in the world of business, in the world of anything, that I just felt like, well, if things ever get out of hand, if there's ever a disagreement, if ever blah blah blah, like they could just kick my ass. But then once I learned jiu-jitsu, it was like my confidence grew to where it should have been all along. And it started to bleed over. So if you guys are enjoying this and you think your audience will like it, I'll keep going on this like kind of like intimate, like personal path.
We love both sides. We love hearing sort of what makes you who you are, but then we also do love the tactical stuff. I think we try to create a good balance, because I do think that, like, learning the sort of backstories and the mentality and the things that you went through that made you who you are open up insights for other people that maybe if I focus on these sort of things and this sort of way of thinking, that'll help steer me in that direction. But saying that, like, maybe we should shift gears a little bit and talk about some sort of tactical kind of stuff. So what I'm curious about is how for some of your early events, how did you go about getting some of these bigger name people? You know, because obviously, okay, so this is my perception, and I'm not sure if it's 100% true. You can sort of correct me, but my perception is the I Am Party, you were sort of bringing out larger name entrepreneurs as a way to draw people to want to come to the parties. So
Correct.
How did you initially start to get some of these bigger names that others may see as sort of unattainable? Did you have any strategy behind it? Was there any sort of technique or something that you used to grab their attention and make it actually look like something that's beneficial to them?
Yeah, except speaking of zone of genius, I feel that, or things that just kind of come naturally to us. I feel that, remember at the beginning before we started recording, I said it'd be ideal if you asked me really, like targeted questions, because I think that some of these things just come so natural to me that I don't really know what I did until you kind of
point.
You've got to extract it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not because I'm not willing to tell you. It's just like I'm like, well, I just invited him, but I'm sure if you ask, like, well,
do you remember who the first guest was that you ever had at your very first IM party?
The very first guest was a guy named Ben Mack.
Ben Mack.
Yeah, he was like, he flew in from someplace, and so he was brainiac guy.
So the reason I asked that is I'm curious if you can actually remember, how you reached out to him or what your sort of approach was to get him to agree to come out to the IM party.
Well, it wasn't that big a deal. Like, I mean, Ben was just a crazy, fun-loving guy, and me and Lovitch had him in common, and we just said, "Hey, you want to fly to Austin and speak in front of a bunch of entrepreneurs?"
How about this? How about to leverage what Matt's saying? In your eyes, who did you see that was unattainable that you had to work hard or get a little creative with?
Well, look, I think this is helping me. So the answer to your question is the first thing I did is I reached out to people who were a big enough deal, but not so big a deal that they would give much resistance.
Got it. Okay. Because you want to get momentum going.
I did enough of those that it became fun and interesting and intriguing, and then let other people talk about how cool it was to their peers that were a little bit higher up in the rankings, if you will, in the ranks. And then once I had enough of those under my belt, then I consistently had a crowd. Then it was just a matter of, reaching out to people that were, more unattainable and building a relationship with them and just casually going, "Oh, by the way, I run this thing. If you ever want to come, you should, it'd be cool."
Right.
Instead of making it like a big thing.
And this was, because during this whole phase, I know, just from knowing you, you were doing other things. It wasn't like it was your main focus,
Right. It's never been my main focus, and much to many people who love me's chagrin.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, it's interesting. I remember talking with Gonzalo, too. So, obviously, you hustled your ass off for years. He was saying now with him around, and I don't know if this is Gonzalo or you or combo, now there's one or two people actually running the thing in Austin.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know how many you had, 10 or something like that back in the day.
Yeah, there was one. I mean,
a lot.
Well, as far as people on the team, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, five of us. And it's funny because in hindsight, but it's just one of those things. It's like that frog in boiling water thing again. You just don't realize how much inefficiency there is in certain things until somebody comes in and goes, "Oh, what?"
Shows you a whole new light. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of what I'm hearing is that, the whole progression of you being this sort of networked guy with all of these, high, these very successful business people was just sort of a natural progression. There was no real tactic behind it. It wasn't a methodically planned out thing. You just kind of, due to your upbringing and your sort of personality, it just kind of naturally happened. And it's sort of hard to explain how it happened. But it just kind of happened because of just who you were being with these people. So the sort of thing that I would like to shift into then is let's talk about the IM party and what goes into the IM party, because you did talk for a minute about the mastermind that you do with the think tank that you do with your speakers, and that's something that obviously a lot of people don't know. So can we talk a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes of getting one of these parties set up? I mean, what goes into getting people through that door? Obviously, it gets easier and easier with each event because the word spreads. But in the early days, what was sort of your tactics to get people into the door?
I think a lot of it was hustling. Like just, we had a lot of relationships with a lot of other people. Like, at the time it was me and Lovitch were the one. Like first I started it, and then Lovitch came on board as a partner to help me with the branding and everything. Mm-hmm. And we would just reach out to folks. Like I'd be like, oh, who would be cool to be on the stage that would get drunk and like, have fun, and we could stay up with all night and stuff. Yeah. And so it was really, I kind of feel like it was, what was the question again? Because
I'm just curious about what went into, sort of your marketing efforts to get people there.
I mean, it's funny because, man, I don't know if there's ever been a party where someone doesn't ask me, that comes in from Houston or Dallas or San Antonio, or they're like, this is my first party. I've been hearing about it. How did you get it started and stuff? And it's like, I almost feel like it's one of those unfair advantages that I had by being at the right place at the right time. Like I really don't know that if I was to start internet marketing party today, like if no one had ever done internet marketing party, mm-hmm. and I was to try and start it today, I don't know that it would be if I could make it as long running and successful, because like now so much has changed. Like there's podcasts, there's blogs, there's so many different channels, there's virtual summits, and like even internet marketing party, getting our like main headliner for San Diego is becoming challenging, because there aren't that many people that are big name that aren't everywhere already. Like, okay, so there's Gary Vee, there's Tim Ferriss, and there's Frank Kern. Other than them three, who else would you be like, oh my God, I've
Elon Musk?
Yeah. Right, but see that like at that point,
you're right. I know
you're in outer space. Like,
yeah. Well, I guess what I'm hearing, because I was thinking the same thing. It's almost like you set yourself up in this perfect location without even knowing. You had this group of friends, and then you got this Rolodex. So obviously you got like the freaking open door to just contact people. But I'm thinking you also did hustle your ass off. You were in masterminds. You mentioned that. So, I mean, like, I think a huge part is, because I know just from us, we run like a little meetup. It's like a beer meetup. But I think all of that was a direct connection for us, at least personally, through masterminds, making connections, hustling, getting a little different with our thought patterns, and getting creative with like actually holding an event, because a lot of people won't even go that far.
Right. Man, I'm feeling really self-conscious about this interview. I don't know that I'm bringing any real value to your people, other than if they're just like, oh, this is an entertaining, like just casual listen. Here's what I'll tell you. Based on what you just said, is that I kept doing it because it was fun.
Okay.
Like, yeah. It was like, for years I've said that internet marketing party is like the funnest time of the month for me. Like, ooh, it's never been about like, I mean, I've wanted to monetize it, but that hasn't been why I did it. Like,
it wasn't like you have to, you wanted to do it.
Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to get at is like, this is one of those weird, Ezra Firestone told me once, he was like, dude, you've got the biggest, most well-known brand in the IM space.
Probably true, yeah.
That was what?
I said that's probably true. From our perspective, I mean, everybody's heard of Internet Marketing Party.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. It was, you've got the biggest brand in internet marketing that hasn't been, like, that doesn't have any product or...
That's true.
Or, like, launch or thing behind it. Like, every other brand, from Frank Kern to Digital Marketer to, Infusionsoft or whatever, like they have a product.
Right.
And he's like no one knows what to do other than come to your event, you know. So, which if they're in Austin, sure, it's easy, but if they're not, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, doesn't
and I've never really dialed in like who's our target market.
Right.
Like I just keep doing these things, you know.
Now, doesn't the Internet Marketing Party, don't you actually have a membership element where you can get the recordings from past?
We do, and that's one of the things that we're working on, and it's taken me forever to figure out is, all right, it needs to be called something different, like the online membership or something, or the online club, because when people think of the Internet Marketing Party, they think of the event, whether it's in Austin, San Diego, or anywhere else, and we're distinguishing that there's a membership side of the thing.
I gotcha.
So
I think it's just funny. I'm kind of like digesting this whole conversation. I think you're like the most humble, like, guy that has done a lot of shit. You know, a lot of cool people. You have this badass party and this big following. You obviously have the JV stuff, all these partnerships, and it's just kind of like, but it's cool. I love it.
Here's where some of that comes from. There's two places that comes from. One is that I've suffered a lot over the last, 6-7 years, where I was spending so much time around so many rock stars in our industry, and I was not making a lot of money.
Right.
And it sucked, quite frankly. It sucked to have that much. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It's just in those moments, it sucked to, that whole quote from Tony Robbins or whatever, that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Sure. Well, I suffered from that comment because I was like, damn it, when am I gonna shine? When is that and so I think I'm still like kind of like washing that off of me. Like that's what you're hearing is humility.
Yeah.
And also because I don't feel that I just feel like I was just like I've just been like the little engine that could. Like I just like I've just kept going, but it wasn't like I had this like brilliant thing where I was like, okay, here's my plan, here's my strategy, and this is what I've just been like sticking it with it, staying in the game. And so I'm not really trying to be humble. I'm just like and because so much of it is invisible to me, like it's hard for me to know what I did because I just did it.
You didn't overthink it. You stuck with it. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of commonalities between us and you, like what you just said, hanging around all these rock stars, these people. I mean, I've been business partners with some big name people that, and I've same exact thing, man. For a good 5-6 years, I was just scraping by, credit card debts, all that shit, and moving around.
Yeah.
And so, but always willing away, and then finally, when it hits, you're almost like you don't even see it coming because it just hits.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting about this interview too. Is I think that so many of our listeners, so many people that are going to tune into this podcast, are going to relate to so much to what you're talking about. Maybe it's not, I've had these giant networks of people, but when is my pocketbook going to start to feel it? But it may be, I've bought 100 courses and I've been through all this training and I've been in masterminds. Why hasn't that paid off? People are going to relate to that sort of story. They're going to relate to, I know where David was when he was, building something amazing that everybody thought was awesome, but, it was more rewarding for everybody else involved than maybe him, right? So I think that is so relatable, and I think that's what makes interviews like this and discussions like this, where it just does get personal and it does sort of dive deep onto why this stuff happens. That's what makes it such an interesting conversation. Now, but I do want to touch on something because, you mentioned that you don't quite totally understand how it all happens, but then every once in a while you sort of like point out something that you do in your business that you sort of were methodical about. So for example, when you get people out to speak at these events, I was asking like, how do you get some of these bigger names? Well, in the very beginning of the episode, you kind of mentioned we do this think tank, we do this mastermind where we ask them what their biggest problem is, and then I tap my connections and bring out 7 or 8 people to come and talk to them and focus on that. Well, that's a very tactical thing that other people can do. They can go out there and they can say, if they want to network with somebody, they can focus on other people's problems. They can focus on, what what's the biggest nut you're trying to crack right now, as Brad Costanza would say. What's the biggest issue in your business you're trying to get around, and then figure out, okay, who do I know that can help that person solve that problem? If I make that connection between those two people, then everybody involved is now a much deeper connection to me now.
Yep.
You know, so I mean, you may not realize it, but we are pulling these tactical elements out of you, even though you may not be realizing that we are pulling these tactical elements out of you. But so my next question actually revolves around this mastermind thing. Now, let's say you're getting Frank Kern out to the event. Frank Kern has an issue in his business, and you're going to think of, 7 or 8 people to bring in mastermind with Frank. Those 7 or 8 people, what is their incentive to come out and sort of teach Frank to get over his roadblock? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think that's where some of the stuff that I'm saying, like, that just it's hard for me to see, is like, because I've spent the last 10 years building relationships with people where I can call people up and say, hey, you want to, will you come to this thing, and I think one of the incentives is the fact that some of these think tanks end up being more valuable than paid masterminds.
Right.
But I've got a track record of doing them. So now I've had people in them that have enjoyed them at one. They enjoyed one, and they're like, oh well, sure, I'll come to another. And the other thing is that I make them exclusive. Like, it's not just a big freaking free for all. Like.
Right.
It makes it to where people want to get reinvited. So I keep it strictly to 8 to 12 people.
And so,
if you knew that I was doing a think tank with Tim Ferriss, and at the next San Diego, if he was speaking, chances are you'd want to get in there, right? But
you can get us in there. It's cool.
You know what I'm saying. But like, if his challenge was around, hey, how do I like blow up my Instagram channel, or how do I do Snapchat? Well, I'd invite Ty Lopez. If you guys had like several million Snapchat views for everything, then I would invite. Like, I invite people according to their skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one of the things to it, is that, like, I don't just, it's not a willy-nilly, like, these are my friends and they're cool. Like, when I invite people to it, I invite them so they feel honored. They're like, oh, well, yeah, you're calling me an expert at my thing. And everybody likes to shine at their expertise, so they come to it.
That's right.
And the IM party and the names that you've brought out to the IM party in the past have all built that brand up, and now people want to be involved with the IM party because they've seen the names of the speakers that have spoken in the past, and people want to get involved in things that they think are great and going places.
And the other cool thing is that there's an element of them wanting to. I think it was Neville Medora from AppSumo.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Dude, internet marketing parties kind of become like the Laugh Stop or Laugh Factory, where it's like, I forget which one it is, where like comedians don't get paid to perform."
Right.
Yeah. Like, but if you've never performed there, it's kind of like you haven't really made it.
That's the rite of passage.
That's a good place to be in, man, for you.
That is very true. I mean, that's a great analogy that he made there. Is
right.
that when people want to speak there so much that they're willing to not be paid because they see it as like that's their rite of passage. That's their sort of sign that they finally made it. That's a massive brand right there. That You're very, very humble about, but you've managed to build a very, very massive brand in our industry that pretty much everybody in our industry knows about, and everybody in our industry wants to be involved in some way. I mean, we were telling you before this call that out of all the people that we want to interview and sort of find out what makes them tick and find out what goes on behind the scenes of your business, you were at the top of our list, just because you've managed to build that brand, you've built that network, you've built that thing that everybody wants to be involved in.
Well, thanks. One other thing that occurred to me as you were saying that, remember a little while ago, I was like, damn it, what was it?
Yeah.
It was that and Anna Cummins, who's our event coordinator, that Gonzalo was probably referencing, like the one person that runs the party now. She's been coming Internet Marketing Party for 8 or 9 years. And once she decided to start working with us in this capacity, like she's a badass, but she's like, Dave, I'm not doing this for the money, like, because it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, she's like, I'm putting my ego aside because she's made really good money and been very successful. She's like, I just want to be part of Internet Marketing Party at a deeper level. And like, she's like, I can't quite put my finger on why, but I want to be part of it. And when she told me one day, she's like, Dave, I think you don't realize how much you are the person that's made Internet Marketing Party. Like you've been thinking it's your speakers. But she said, I go to meetups all the time in town. But Internet Marketing Party from day one has always been the one that I felt love. Like there was like, and you know, in such a male-dominated kind of like strategic, tactical industry, it feels kind of weird to say like that, you know. But she's like, there's like an actual community here where there's love and there's support, and like you are the engine behind that, and like you actually care, and you're walking, you know, like when you go to a party that has a good, like not an Internet Marketing Party, like just a regular party, like a Super Bowl party or well, you know, a housewarming party, whatever. And it's a good host, like as in they're paying attention to people that are like off in the corner and that like, you know, like nobody, like you go and like, hey, let me introduce you to so-and-so, like making sure that everybody that's there is enjoying themselves.
Right.
And that they're glad that they came to the party or the Knicks or whatever. And so I don't know how not to do that.
Well, dude, I think that's the most powerful position to be in too, is if you are the one that's making those introductions, the one that's hosting, bringing people together. Usually, you know, you get called upon for so many more things. Opportunities just become popping up everywhere. You can't stop it.
Yeah. So, and that's the kind of thing that, like, that's another one of those reasons where I think what you guys are tagging as humility, I'm just thinking like, well, this isn't like, oh, well, here's how you become a badass copywriter, or here's how you build funnels, or here's how you do partnerships. Like, I think that's just who I am. And like, I think that if somebody's not like naturally a good host, and like someone like, you know, Ron Lynch, you know, one of my best friends and dear, like a mentor, he sold over $2 billion worth of products, you know,
nice.
helped do the George Foreman grill deal. He helped launch OxyClean, and, you know, like we're talking like he works with Johnson & Johnson and Samsung and stuff. Like, he pulled me aside one day and he's like, you know what your superpower is, right? And I was like, and he goes, he changed the subject. Let me just fucking, like, you know, 3 weeks later, he calls me up and he goes, have you figured it out? And I'm like, I've always struggled with this forever, you know, because any good like personal development course or like really good like entrepreneurship leadership will ask you that. And I'd never known. And he's like, dude, your superpower is love. I was like kind of pissed. I was like, I want it to be something cool, like copywriting or sales or persuasion. Or he goes, dude, that's the superpower that wins them all. Like,
that's true.
And I don't know. It like I've it's, you know, I think you know what I'm trying to say. Is it's just kind of like, wow, like okay,
you truly when you're talking to you, when people are talking to you, they feel like you care. Like you're present, like you want to be talking to that person in that moment, and I think that's what my perception of you. You know, I don't remember how far we go back, but we go back quite a while, and you're just the type of person that the very first time I ever met you, I felt like you're the type that I just kind of knew, and you sort of accepted us into whatever circle you were talking with. Like there was no like sort of click thing going on. You just kind of said, hey, Matt, have you met so-and-so? And, you know, you were introducing me to people, and it was just kind of like, I met you 5 minutes ago and you're already introducing me to people, and you just kind of have that I care about everybody that I'm around kind of feel.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, that's been one of those things that like, it just because that's how I roll. And there's been times when I've been that way because I was like I don't really know what to say, so I'm gonna like introduce somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's why I'm saying, dude, like, I think what you guys are picking up on humility is me saying, like, shit, man, some of the things that I do that get me really good success, like, I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, here's my next tactic.
Yeah.
I hear
like,
you, man.
I'm feeling awkward right now. Hey, have you met so-and-so? You guys talk, and that way I just disappear in the background and be uncomfortable.
Dear God. Says the guy that brings hundreds of people together every month.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, sometimes at the parties, like, I'm just like, sometimes I don't want to talk to somebody,
Sure,
and that'll be why I'll be like, you know, like, hey, I'll be right back. I gotta go run and do something, and I'm just like,
You sit in the back and
hang out in
like,
the
I'll
bathroom
just go
stall.
talk to somebody that's on the team and be like, so how's everything going? You
they're
know,
like, shouldn't you be out there talking to the guests?
That's
No,
awesome.
I honestly hear a lot of you in me a little bit, and not saying I hold a big events and all that stuff, but the similar kind of thing, connecting. And I would almost just say to any listener here, taking David's message and all that, if you feel like a pull, like you feel like you have that kind of superpower, connect people. Just start bringing people together. It doesn't matter if it's business or in just personal life, but just see what happens and see the joy you bring, the opportunities that come. But if it is maybe a business opportunity, figure out how you can apply that, how to make those connections that maybe will, lead to a partnership or a JV deal or something.
Yeah,
But I think that's what can get pulled really from this whole conversation here.
for sure. Cool. Well, okay, so last question then. Where can people go learn more about you?
Internetmarketingparty.com, I guess. Let's do that.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks
All right.
again, dude.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.
So that was it was an interesting podcast. It was a good one. It was it took a little different direction than we were planning, but I think now that you listen to David's story, it's fascinating to see kind of this arc of that. It's almost started from the days of elementary school, like he was saying in his family, little engine that could. I like that whole reference. And I think he become so relatable in how, if you have any of these skill sets, or even if you don't, you can kind of see the thinking that goes behind this whole orchestration of events that's happened. And we didn't get to go into detail of everything, because there's a lot more that makes him tick, but hopefully you pulled out some gold nuggets there. And some of the tactics, actually, Matt and I were talking about right after we finished the call recording. David does some really smart things. And one example, so like when he promotes these internet marketing parties, he usually has these Facebook pages and threads.
It's like a Facebook event page.
Yeah, and so he does that for every one of his events, I believe, at least for the San Diego versions. But he tags every single person who has purchased a ticket. So he makes it well known that, he's realized that you're coming. He's tagging you, but then he also asks, like, hey, so-and-so, what's one thing that you're struggling with, or what's a problem that you can have that you're having right now that you need some help with? And he literally will answer one by one each person and connect people.
Yeah.
And he'll say like, hey, Sam over here has a problem with SEO. Bob is like the best SEO expert I know. You guys need to chat. And then he'll just leave it at that. And that's like the kind of stuff he does in person.
Yeah.
But online, like it's just, I don't think he even thinks about it.
Yeah.
But it's like and this is where we gathered from this conversation, is like he literally just does it subconsciously, but it's so methodical.
Well, it becomes such a part of who he is and what he does that he doesn't realize that it's what he's doing anymore.
Yeah.
It's literally just, this is what I do, and I don't put too much thought into it. So he doesn't see it as tactics or a strategy or anything. That's just who he is. And like you were saying, he does that thing where he tags people and connects people online, and he does that in person. And we talked to him a little bit about like how he grew this thing, and he was sort of giving these sort of humble responses where he just did it, and there wasn't much thought behind it, and it just somehow worked. But when you really break down a lot of the things that he said, there was things that he did that you can take away from that. In the beginning, he had some people that helped him build it, and he got networked with more and more and more people. But that didn't start from nowhere. He wasn't just born with this network, with these people. He put himself out there at some point to join a mastermind group or to reach out to somebody that he's never met before and jump on a call with them and chat with them. Or
it's if a Rolodex of people are handed to you, it's not like they automatically become your close friends or acquaintance business partners. You actually have to do the work,
right?
And reach out, make relationships, connect. And he did all of that. And I think that's something where he kind of almost overlooks, or maybe it's just he's done it so long now, it's his second nature,
Yeah.
And we were relating, and we didn't get to ask David about like what books and kind of some typical questions, but we said the Go-Giver. Like he is literally living the Go-Giver book. So if you haven't read the Go-Giver, go check that out. But he's doing these things without thinking, hey, what's in it for me? Like he's not thinking, oh, I want to get 5% of this like JV deal or whatever because I know they're going to do some cool stuff together. Like, no, he's just literally connecting them.
Yep.
And he's just trying to do good, and then he's moving on.
Yeah. And like he said, his superpower is heart. He's just a good person who, when he's with people and talking to people, he cares. He listens. He cares about them. When he hears they have a problem, he's thinking of who can I connect this person with to help them with that problem. And, that may not be like a tactic or anything like that, but that's something that everybody can learn from. Mm-hmm. Everybody can start implementing that kind of stuff, start thinking of who you can connect, and that's how you grow massive networks.
So, yeah, hopefully you got some good value and gold out of this, and definitely we'll probably have him on again, and we'll talk. But definitely check out Internet Marketing Party if you're in Austin monthly, or in San Diego. That's like the big behemoth of one, and they blow it out. So it's really impressive. So
check that out.
Thank you.
See you later.
Hey, thank you for listening to this podcast. Now, if you want to learn more and hear from us every single month, which a lot of people do, it's pretty fun. We actually write this thing called the Evergreen Profits Letter, and that is a printed newsletter that we actually send to hundreds of people every single month to your doorstep, so you actually get it in the mail. You can read this sucker, you can highlight it, you can dog ear, you can scratch some stuff out if you don't like that one. You say, no, Joe and Matt, that's not cool for me. But you can take a lot of different strategies, about 15 or so from every single issue, and it's really cool. So basically, these are actionable strategies that you can use in your business right away to test out and pretty much build on what you already have going on. So check it out. It's at www.egpletter.com. It's pretty amazing. And you should go check it out. See what it's all about.
Boom.